Gorebhyo Gor Goretaribhyascha Sarvata Sharva Sarvebhyo Namaste Rudrarupebhya. O Lord Shiva, you alone transform yourself into all forms, into the forms of the powers of Rudra as Agora, the enlightening and uplifting energy, Goratari, the frightful darkening energy which pushes one down, and Gora, the energy which keeps one fixed, neither rising or falling. These forms embodied in Rudra Shiva are helpful to aspirants while they are aware, and frightful for the ones who are ignorant, pushing them down and down. No.
Okay.
So we were going to start off the practice today, or just the conversation today, with a few of us today and the other couple next week, of just giving a little background of how we got into meditation, or why, because it's different for each of us. So Mom and Dad are going to share theirs next week. But I thought George could share his, since he's been meditating for 50 plus years, if not longer, and maybe a little bit from Claudia and myself. So George, would you like to give a little background of how you came to meditation, or it came to you?
Yeah, I guess as a teenager, like most teenagers, I knew nothing about anything. I lived in the world. I was a surfer, played music and everything. And then I met two lovely young ladies who were vegetarians from birth, who were doing yoga and meditation. And I was completely amazed. I mean, the idea of being a vegetarian for me was something so foreign. We're going back to 1968, 69, 70. But there was something fascinating about them. They were so pure and so full of life. And I was just attracted. Apart from being attracted, I was a teenager. They were very lovely young surfer girls, you can say. And then I got to know them, and a few months later they said, "Oh, look, we've learned transcendental meditation. You should go and do it." I mean, I was kind of a puppy dog. I did whatever they told me to do, you know. So, you know, everybody knows their teenage years. And once I started to meditate, it just seemed so natural. I knew straight away that was my life. There was no question in my mind about anything that I had done before. I came from a very, very good Christian family, Catholic family, and they all thought that I had joined the Moonies. But within 6 months, my whole family were meditating. My mother, father, and my 3 brothers and my sister had all started transcendental meditation. And they were, most of them, except for some of my brothers, my mother and father meditated without missing for their whole life. From 1972 they started up until the time they left this world. And eventually I taught them the practice, simple practice that we're going to be teaching here over the next 4 days of Kashmir Shaivism. And that was my transition. It was very seamless. And I spent 8 years teaching transcendental meditation, had a very intimate relationship with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, met him on numerous occasions. And I asked him in 1980, I said, I want to go to India, I want to study Shaivism, you know, and my mind was all directed towards Kashmir. And he said, yes, teach for 1 more year and then you can go, which was unusual for Maharishi because he didn't usually allow Westerners to come and, you know, be in India. But he allowed John and Denise to do it 10 years before that, when they went with Shana at 2 years old. I think 72, right, John? When you went. So, and meeting Swamiji was really the turning point for me because it was obvious sitting in his presence that he was a fully realized soul. There was no doubt in my mind that Swamiji, he knew everything, basically. And I was lucky enough to spend the last 10 years of his life in the ashram, working each day, and of course meeting John and Denise and becoming part of this really intimate family around Swamiji. So that was my transition. And meditation, of course, has always been a very, very big part of of my daily practice. So, and it was the key for Swamiji. It was the key, not just sitting down and meditating, but also meditation in action, which we will get into as we go through this course later on. But today, and we're going to start just like step by step.
Thank you, George. Thank you. Claudia, would you like to share a little bit about how you came to meditation? It'd be nice to hear. So many of us here.
I had been on a solo trip through Asia and India in 1995, I think. And when I was in North Thailand, I was staying at a Buddhist monastery, and they were meditating in the morning, just sitting by the river. And I thought this was so nice. It felt so refreshing, so nice. I didn't have any instructions. I just sat there, listened to the river. And of course, I had nothing on my mind because I was traveling, and it was all kind of easy peasy in that way. And then after that, I went to India and met various people who told me meditation is really good, you should learn it. And that fueled my desire. And I traveled around India and ended up in Dharamsala. And my idea was to participate in one of those Vipassana courses where you just sit for 10 days straight and learn to meditate. But that was not meant to be. The class was full, I couldn't get in. So I thought, I was interested in Buddhism. I thought I'd do some lectures. And while I was there, I happened to meet George. And when I mentioned that, I was going to learn to meditate, and he said, don't worry, I can teach you. And so I learned meditation from George. And of course, he is connected to Shaivism. So I went with him to Kashmir, learned more about Kashmir Shaivism, got totally fascinated, saw Swamiji's book, and I think the rest is history. I've been meditating since then, and I hope you all enjoy it too.
Thank you, Claudia. That was wonderful. I always learn little different tidbits from each person, a little bit more than, say, the last time, and I've known you guys for so long, forever. So thank you for that.
Those are long stories, so you cannot tell that, like...
No, there's so many little tidbits that come in, which is good. So thank you for that. And I'll just share just a little bit, and then we can move on. I was born into this wonderful family of my parents, where they were meditators before I was born. So thankful for that. I was initiated by Swami Lakshmanju, I think at the age of about 10, of what I recall. It was myself and a few other of the children near the ashram, and it was one-on-one. And I remember what I was taught, and I remember following what he taught me for, I think, just a few days, because I was a child with so much energy, and it also wasn't my time yet, that for me to sit down for 10 or 20 minutes was unimaginable at the time for me. And so I didn't meditate again until I was in my late 20s, when I couldn't handle being a ping pong ball of emotions, where I was either really high and full and shining, or really, really low. And so I went back to my parents and I said, okay, I'm ready to start meditating again. And so my mom took me under her wing kindly and just started me off really simple and really small, because I still, even till today, which is so full of energy, to say to me, Shauna, sit down for an hour and meditate, was an impossibility. I would have run the other way. So she started me at 10 minutes twice a day. And 10 minutes was doable for myself. For many of you, 20, 30 hours, easy. So 10 minutes twice a day. And what I did, I remember, I did it for 30 days. This is how my mind works. I put it in my calendar where I was going to do it twice a day for 30 days. And in 30 days, I would know if I felt a difference. And so I did it twice a day for 30 days. She'd check in with me, make sure things were going well. It's just breath-based meditation with of what she taught me, that Swamiji had taught too. And then at the end of 30 days, I can say I was hooked. George was hooked right in the beginning, but I was hooked because I noticed the biggest difference for myself was my treatment of self, my perception of self. It was almost like it was easier, it was kinder. I used to, for some reason, beat myself up so much compared to what I did with other people. And so it gave me a sense of peace that I hadn't felt since I was a child. And so then I just continued. And over the years, I brought it up to 20 minutes twice a day, and then a half an hour, and then I built it up more. But it was a process, is what I'm saying. For myself, unlike George and Mom and Dad and Claudia, it wasn't like this. It was time and process. And now I couldn't imagine living this life without it, and living with the ups and downs of life without it. And Dad and George will be talking more about the real reason of meditation, Kashmir Shaivism, but I just wanted to give that little part. So George, Mom, Dad, anything you would like to add right now before we just go over a basic meditation? But you have to unmute yourself, Mom and Dad, if you want to say anything.
Well, I was in junior college, and John was also, but I hadn't met him yet. And I saw this sign that said, because in those days people were taking so many drugs, you know, especially LSD, and there was a sign all over the school that said, "Expand your conscious mind without drugs." So I was interested, and so was my friend Jennifer. So we went to the lecture, and it was so crowded. There were so many people there, and we were told to sit up on the stage because there weren't any more seats down below. So we sat there and listened to the lecture, the seminar, and John was on the seminar, and he was explaining what meditation is, why you would want to meditate. And I was just transfixed listening to him. It sounded so good because I knew that I was very moody when I was younger and, you know, kind of up and down. And so I thought, who is this? Almost like I was remembering someone from the past. And my girlfriend said, "Who's that looking at you like with a pumpkin grin or something silly like that?" And I said, "Who?" I was trying to, you know, be cool. And so so he finished the webinar, and there were other people there speaking also. And I didn't think I would see him ever again. I mean, the college was pretty big, and he was looking for me, and I was looking for him. And everywhere I went, when I go to my classes, I would be looking for John. And one day we were at this place where they have, you know, you put coins in to get candy or whatever you want. And he was there too. And I went, "Oh, that's John," you know, and John saw me. I don't know if he remembers, but then after that, we went out for lunch, and then everything progressed really fast. And he said, "You have to learn to meditate." And I thought, what is meditation? I don't know how to meditate. I've never heard of meditating. And so he said, "You have to come to a lecture." Maharishi was in town and at UCLA and giving a lecture. So I went there and I listened, and it sounded really good. And then I was initiated by Jerry Jarvis. He was a teacher at that time, a devotee of Maharishi's. And I just felt the change in myself. And my mom knew that I went to, you know, this lecture, and I mentioned a few things about John. but she said, Denny, you're glowing. She said, are you pregnant? I said, no, I'm not pregnant. She said, well, it must be the meditation. That's the only new thing you're doing. She'd watch me very closely. And she wanted to get initiated. So she was initiated by someone who was teaching seniors. And she just loved it. She just loved it. She said, Mom, she said, Denny, I don't get sad. I don't get sad very much. I don't mind washing the clothes. I don't mind cooking anymore. I'm just doing it and I'm enjoying it. And and there we are. Yeah. It was wonderful.
Thank you, Mom. That was beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
My pleasure.
So we were thinking we've been discussing this for the last 2 years, trying to put this together. And then things have happened in life, right? Injuries, stuff like that. So anyways, here we are. So we're just going to start off with the real basics. I know there's probably many of you who have been teaching or practicing for years. And so what I asked from you, or what we asked from you, since you're joining us, is come with a beginner's mind, right? Come to these practices and try them just innocently. Just be here. No comparison, no nothing. Just be here with us for a while, and then we'll go from there. So before I take you through just a basic little thing, George, you want to say something?
Yeah, I want to say something because, okay, there's a lot of new people and a picture paints 1,000 words. I'm going to just share my screen for one moment before we start. And hopefully this all works. I thought that if people see that that's 1972, Shana's 2 years old, that's Denise and John with Swamiji when they first went to the ashram. And Shana, you have your doll.
Yes.
I just thought that would put things in perspective of that time back then, and how Swamiji was so welcoming, because I think he knew exactly what we're doing here today. I mean, obviously he knew what was going to happen. And okay, I just thought I'd throw that in and to give it a little bit of a, picture paints 1,000 words. Okay, let me stop sharing my screen.
I remember that day. It was so sweet.
And
I was so shy.
You just met him just a little while ago. It's not like you all knew him deeply like you did over the years. So,
right.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you, George.
Okay.
Just forget about certain photos. So, all right, everyone, we just want to take you through just a basic, just settling in for the next 5 to 7 minutes. And then you'll bring your questions and we'll just move on, and George and Dad and everyone will share some more things. And then we'll have our final meditation with a little more description towards the end. Okay? So wherever you are in the world, welcome. I want you to find your comfortable seat. And your comfortable seat can be in your chair. It can be on the ground seated. Or if you have any pain or limitations, set yourself up in such a way where you feel supported and comfortable. And all I would like you to do is to just become still. No direction of anything to do, where to go, how, why. Just sit here for 2 to 3 minutes with your eyes open or your eyes closed. And just sitting here without any expectations. Just sit for a little while, just still. And just as you sit here in stillness, notice what arises, if anything, right from within you, or if any of your senses are pulling you outwards, with any sounds. Your eyes are closed or open. Anything that you see, lights, images, just colors. And just feeling the surface below you, wherever you are sitting. Feel that contact. And as you sit here, innocently, begin to notice the natural free-flowing movement of your breath in and out of you. Unless congested, try to see if you can close your mouth and inhale through the nose, both on the inhale and the exhale. So just sit here for a little while, just observing the natural free-flowing movement of your breath in and out of you. Not trying to lengthen it or trying to do anything to it or hold it, just observing breath moving in breath moving out. And the mind will wander. It's what it's used to. But each time that you notice that the mind goes to some sort of thought, just ever so gently bring your attention back to the breath. Noticing the inhale, noticing the exhale, your attention to the flow of the breath. Just notice. Just notice your attention. If you're able to stay focused or if it moves around, and both are okay because it just is. So follow your breath. And begin to bring your attention back to your body and to the room around you, just ever so slowly. Just sitting here. Just feeling yourself arrive. And just over the next minute, if your eyes are closed, beginning to open them, or if they're partly open, just coming back. So for the final practice at the end of this class together, we'll go over some more detail. But before we do that, we were thinking it'd be really nice to get questions from you. Questions just about what was shared over the last 6 to 8 minutes. And so that then with George and Mom and Dad's background, and we can maybe answer those questions and then share a little bit more about meditation and Kashmir Shaivism and what that really is. So it would be helpful if you post your questions. I don't know why I don't see the Q&A box. Oh yeah, there it is. If you post your questions on the bottom in the Q&A box. If you have any questions about the last 6 minutes or even about over time of meditation, and those we'll answer. And so not in the chat box if possible, if you could put it into the Q&A box. Okay, so we have some questions coming. And if they pertain to what we're teaching right now, then we'll answer those and the other ones can come up at another time. So one of the questions is, George, Mom, and Dad, if one feels sleepy, what should one do?
Lie down.
Take rest.
George, you have to unmute yourself, Georgie.
There is a natural sleepiness that comes. And if you've been working hard and you're naturally sleepy, you do what Denise said, you lie down and rest. If you were quite conscious and quite energetic at the beginning of meditation or whatever practice, and you start to feel sleepy, then sometimes you can just sit straight. Like we started out with Charlotte said, sit comfortably, but sit straight. And if it's overwhelming, then it's better to lay down and just relax. Because sometimes just sitting up straight and changing our posture a little bit gets through that little bit of, sleepiness. Different for everybody.
So we have a question here that says, I'm sure many of us deal with this, is what do we do during meditation when our mind goes here and there?
When you become aware that your mind has gone somewhere else, just very gently bring it back to your meditation.
Yeah. And very important that you don't struggle with your mind and feel that, okay, I started out being aware of my breath, and then all of a sudden I was off with the fairies. I was thinking something completely, out, away from meditation. You have two choices at that point. You can feel like, oh, I'm not meditating. Or, as Denise just said, you can just gently bring your awareness back to the breath and leave the thoughts go. Just let go. But don't have an attitude that I'm doing something wrong, because you'll find out in the beginning, it'll be natural that you drift away onto thoughts quite often in meditation, especially in the beginning phases. You watch a few breaths and you're gone. Then you remember and you watch a few more breaths and you're gone this way, that way, here, there, and everywhere. So Don't strain your mind. Don't struggle with the natural flow of your mind. Just shifting your attention, your awareness, back to that flow of the breath.
Yes. Don't try to push out the thoughts.
Yeah.
You know, there was a thing that Dad said, I think about 14 years ago, that was really helpful for me because my mind is so everywhere most of the time. And he said, even if you're able to watch your breath for 1 or 2 breaths, and then the mind goes, at least it's 1 or 2 breaths. And that gave me a feeling of, okay, I'm not doing it wrong. I'm doing the best I can. And the mind goes and then it comes back. And that was a big one for myself. So that was really helpful. And then sometimes you're able to watch for a little longer. So it's a perfect segue into this question. Maybe all of you can help with this, where it says, what does watching your breath mean? I mean, I don't feel the air going in as it's such a normal process. And when I put my finger near my nose, I feel the breath. How can you follow?
Good question.
There's a practice which is called ujjayi breath. And you make the sound like, and you can hear your breath. And Swamiji said it's very good for beginners and even people who haven't done this practice to do that for some time, because you need something to bring your attention back to your breath. So if you're hearing it, then you can practice.
And the way you just shared it, Mom, is the way that we learn right in the beginning, if we wanted to, of doing it through the mouth. So it's almost like fogging up a mirror so you can create that sound, right? But then over time, the mouth closes and then you create that sound. But there's one thing I just wanted to mention is that with some people, when they do the Chakrodhi or Ujjayi breath, they tend to do it from their chest. And Swamiji said that can be really detrimental to the heart, right? And so it's more of a sound that comes from the gluteus. I don't know if I pronounced that right. George, Dad, Mom, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, just the shift from hearing the breath there, you can take, even if your nose is not blocked and you breathe in, you can hear the sound of the breath going in the throat. And you're not making any physical effort for that. It's happening all the time. And as you breathe out, you can hear it again. And that in itself is a way of remaining more one-pointed in the beginning. And really don't worry, because you will drift away. Even after years and years, you still drift away, and you're sitting in meditation for some time, and the next thing you're doing something that you had put off, and then you've forgotten that you're sitting in the room meditating. So then you just bring your awareness back very gently. Main thing, like Shana started out, just innocence. Simple innocence is the way to approach meditation, and for the mind to go to deeper and deeper and more subtle levels. And for the breath, which it will do, it will refine itself. It's not that you have to always have the breath exactly the same way. The breath itself refines itself in the practice.
It's also important to meditate regularly. We would do twice a day, morning and evening. And it's just very powerful that way. We're always thinking about this, thinking about that, and this is the time to use your awareness to observe your breath.
So we have so many questions that have come up that we're not going to be able to answer all of them right now, but let me just go over 2 more. And then it'd be really nice to hear from all of you what meditation is according to Kashmir Shaivism and Swami Lakshmanju. So one of the questions here is, Desiree says, I've been trying to practice meditation more with my eyes open. And this, so I don't have any images to gaze upon. Where should I focus my vision? So there's another person that asked the same question. So do you suggest to have eyes closed or eyes open, focused on a point when you meditate?
Sometimes eyes closed, sometimes eyes open, but not open wide. If you're going to keep your eyes open, gaze at a point on the floor and just keep your focus there. And if it goes away, because thoughts come, just bring it back to that point.
Well, that's a natural part of Shaiva practice to do those practices. You can see some of the pictures. You see Swamiji in that picture where he's sitting and meditating. His eyes are not fully closed. He's looking in the angle, like, down like that. And sometimes, even if you're not looking at some particular thing, just leaving the eyes slightly open in that direction. In Shaivism, it says that helps to maintain more one-pointedness, because the moment you close your eyes, it's very easy to drift off. But in the beginning, it took me a long time. I was practicing with my eyes closed for many, many years. And I would start like that. And after 5 minutes, my eyes would automatically close because that was the habit of the body. But after a while, you even get used to that. And like Denise said, you can try this way. Sometimes you try that way. It depends which is feeling most comfortable at that time. You should always feel comfortable. You shouldn't feel that there's any strain in what you're doing. Should be clearly, like that.
One more question. During meditation, when uncomfortable sensations arise, is it best to ignore them and return to the focus on the breath, or take one's awareness into that sensation until it ceases?
When you're thinking a thought, when the thought comes, or a sensation comes, that's just another distraction. And then when you realize that you're having that sensation, you can just come back to the to watching the breath. It's just whether it's a sensation of any sort or what you're thinking about. When you start thinking, then you're not watching your breath; you're thinking of something, and so or you're feeling something. And so when you realize that that's happening, you just take your attention back to watching the breath. But you don't want to try to push it out. Don't try to push that thought out and try to push that feeling out, because then you'll be struggling and that won't work. So you can't push out the thought, but just put your attention back, bring it back to watching the breath.
So could the three of you just give us a bit or a snippet of what meditation is, or why people meditate, or why it's taught according to Kashmir Shaivism, like what the bigger picture is besides stress relief and easier lives? Like, what's the ultimate in Kashmir Shaivism for meditation?
I think, one of the things we have to understand, to understand that question is to understand the nature of reality as we understand it, as Kashmir Shaivites understand it. And our understanding is that there's only one reality, and that reality is our own being, our own self. That consciousness is behind the eyes, as it were, we call that awareness. That person who's the perceiver is always there perceiving. So that sometimes that perceiver is covered, seems to be covered by thinking or by other things, but it's always there. It's always there. And so what we want to bring that perceiver into full view. We want to make that the real center of our life. We don't want to be lost in thought or push this way or push that way. We want to be able to establish ourselves in that real center. And that real center is the real nature of our own being. And so we say it's the reality of God consciousness is your own divine self. Because when you come to understand the nature of our own being, our nature of who it is that's perceiving from behind those eyes, that's a divine reality. That's something special, and that divine reality is uncovered in this world that we're living in, and so we don't experience that. But it's there, it's always there, but we don't experience that. And so we want to experience that, we want to live that, we want to make that the fullness of our life.
Denise,
Hmm?
anything to add?
Well, most of us just have a lot of thoughts. We don't really find any quietness or peace in that. And when you start to meditate, it brings your attention to who you really are, your divine self. And Swamiji would talk about, that you have to realize God, you have to realize Shiva, you have to realize that you are Shiva, you are that divine person. Because he said it's like you have two personalities, limited being. You've got your individual self, and then you have your expanded self, which you're not aware of at the time. But meditation helps to facilitate that self, that higher self, so that you feel that greatness inside. You feel that divinity inside.
Mm.
And you'll find, for those that have already been following Kashmir Shaivism, and of course, why is it called Kashmir Shaivism? Because it's Shiva, it's the ism of Shiva, the understanding of Shiva, the whole philosophy, which had its roots in Kashmir. And it often is a completely 180-degree turn from all the other systems of meditation. Most other systems will give you this kind of feeling that that we are human beings trying to have a conscious experience. And Kashmir Shaivism says, no, it's actually the other way around. We are consciousness having a human experience.
Mm-hmm.
So it's Shiva and Shakti. We can't rule Shakti out because Shiva and Shakti they're inseparable. When they, in this philosophy, decide to come down into the world, they do, and they become us. And they play in the world as us. And the whole process of the spiritual path in Kashmir Shaivism is a path which is actually, there's no distance because Shiva and Shakti are already inside. But the distance is in that we feel that we have to do something, we have to watch our breath first, and we have to do this in order to unfold the reality of who we really are, which is what John just said, that universal being. Swamiji has that beautiful saying, God and the individual are one. To realize this is the essence of Kashmir Shaivism.
Good point. Great.
Thank you. So just to add to, we're planning on just showing that little piece or playing that little piece of Swamiji's that's from our weekly puja, right? The Ashtangatevate Prane piece, and then a little discussion and into the final practice.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, Claudia.
Astangatavati prane tapane vidayon mukhe tavata kumbhakavastha yogi bhiranubhuyate. Astangatavati prane. Where is prana? The movement of outgoing breath is finished. Tapane Vedayon Mukhe, and the movement of ingoing breath is to take place, has not taken place yet, but is to take place. And that at that point, Tavat, at that point, Sa Kumbhaka Avastha, this automatic pause, Yogi Vir Anubhuyate, yogi have experienced it, that automatic pause, that automatic pause of these two breaths is really to be meditated upon. Until you are not one pointed on that automatic pause with each and every breath, nothing will happen. Yogis are bent upon finding out and searching and meditating upon that automatic pause. It's only that automatic pause is just for 1 second, less than 1 second.
प्रणष्ट वायु संचार पाषाण एव निश्चल परजीवैक्य धर्मज्ञो योगी योग विधुच्यते. This is the position of yogi when he is sunk in God consciousness. What happens to him? He explains this. Pranashta vayu sanchara. Ingoing breathing and outcoming breath. Outcoming breath and the ingoing breath has absolutely stopped. There is no breathing inside and outside. Vayu sanchara means the movement of breath inside and outside. As we breathe inside and outside, when this movement of breath is totally finished, Pashana eva nischala. He becomes just like a rock, nischala, without any movement altogether. He cannot move his body at all. He is just like a rock. But at the same time, he is not just like a rock, just like dead body. Parajīva ekadharmagyo. He finds the unification of individual in universal consciousness. At that time, he experiences the union of individual consciousness with universal consciousness. That kind of yogi is called to be perfect yogi. I understood.
And that's last state comes about, Swamiji says, just very naturally, automatically. You can't make it happen. It comes about by one pointed practice of the awareness of the breath. And as he pointed out just a little bit, which we're going into in subsequent things, more into what he talks about by the turning point.
So we're going to go into a 10-minute meditation practice. And I've seen so many chats and questions coming up, and I just wanted to mention that we're starting off with the basics, and then each week we will add on. And that way, hopefully, we'll get a good feel of this practice as taught in Kashmir Shaivism. And there are people saying, well, will the questions be answered? We're going to collect the many questions over this week and put them in similar areas and try to cover them. Absolutely. We're going to try our best, especially when they have to do with the topic of meditation. Okay? George, Mom, Dad, would you like to add anything to that before we go into a practice?
No, that's good.
Okay. So let's find I'm sorry, Dad, go for it.
One step at a time. That's what we're doing.
Yes.
Yeah. We're teaching this class as if all of us have never practiced before. So let's do that together. Okay. Find your comfortable seat. So as you find your comfortable seat, sit up tall if that's comfortable for you. Feel this lengthening of your spine, the softening of your shoulders. Also feel this evenness between both sides of your body. the left side and the right side, just this balance, this centering. And just find your seat, your asana. Again, that can be sitting in your chair or sitting on the ground if that is best for you. And come to this practice. Each time we practice with a beginner's mind, just innocently following this practice. And with no expectations. So as you allow the body to relax while you sit up tall, begin to bring your attention to your breath. Just noticing that you're breathing. You're not lengthening the breath right now or creating any sound or holds. Just that the breath is moving in on the inhale and the breath is leaving you on the exhale, out of the nose if possible. Just sit here for a few breaths first, just natural breath. Breath moving in, breath moving out. And over this short practice, the breath on its own is just going to become a little bit longer and more at ease. Not controlling it, just these longer, easier inhales. And these longer, easier exhales. And we're just going to sit here for the next 5 minutes, observing the breath. So simple, yet also not. And each time that the mind wanders, ever so gently bring your attention back to the flow of your breath, of your inhale and of your exhale. Slowly coming back into your room and your body. And just sitting here for a little while. Not having to move around or do anything at this moment, just taking your time just to arrive, to surface. Just opening your eyes. And just sitting here. Just wanted to share something that came up in my mind that was really helpful a long time ago as I've been reading your questions and thoughts and worries. Is that if you get a bottle of water, a jar, and you fill it with water, right? This clear jar, that's your mind. If you put a teaspoon of mud in there, those are the thoughts, and you close the jar and you shake it and you try to look through the jar again, you can't. It's the mind and all the different thoughts. But if you lay the jar in a place in stillness for 5 minutes, for 10 minutes, for 20 minutes, the silt, the thoughts, start to settle, even if just a little bit. And so with many of you that are saying, oh, I can't focus, my mind is everywhere, allow yourself just to be still twice a day. And if through this practice, and George is going to tell us what our homework is, if through this practice the mind is everywhere, okay, so it's everywhere. Sit there, be still. Come back again and again is the only advice I can give. George, you have to unmute yourself.
No, just sitting in stillness. Even if you're not watching the breath, just sitting still, you feel yourself settle down. And that in itself is a practice. In fact, that's the most profound and simple practice that we find difficult to do. For some reason, we find it difficult to do because we're used to movement, and especially if the mind is agitated, like everybody says, we're used to movement. But it's a very perplexing situation because if I asked everybody here now, just sit still for 1 hour, don't do anything, everybody would find it quite difficult. But if we were to sit down and watch a movie for an hour and a half, you can sit there without moving. You even forget that you need to go to the bathroom, or you remember popcorn or potato chips. When your eyes are focused, and this is what Denise brought up before, when you have your eyes slightly open and you're looking down, somehow that helps the mind to be one-pointed. But don't worry in the beginning, because your mind will drift off, and as Shana pointed out, just very gently bring your mind back to the breath. And do this twice a day. Make the time to do it, and next week we'll move deeper into the practice. But it's wonderful to think, there's 227 people online, and 227 Shiva Shaktis who decided to all sit together and meditate at this moment. Enjoy that bliss, all over this tiny globe, some on the other side, upside down, some on the top, some at night, some in the day, but everybody getting connected somehow through the grace of Shiva and Shakti. It's a very nice thought.
Thank you for that, George. Mom and Dad, would you like to say anything before because we're 10 minutes over the time, or 8 minutes? You have to unmute though first, Dad, please. Mom, unmute.
It's been a wonderful session, first session. I've enjoyed it a lot myself. It's been really, really good.
Me too. Thank you all.
I look forward to the next session.
Yes.
I'll wait.
Yeah, thank you all. And we're going to look over the questions and put them into categories, and we'll figure it all out, and we'll all learn together. This is us learning from you, you learning from us, and us just coming as threads of collective energy. So God bless and thank you. Claudia, she's the one that puts all this together, so she's in the background. Say something before
don't worry, this will we start very easy. This will get more complicated. Because some are asking, is this it? And yeah.
But it doesn't
we're doing the beginner's mind, and for us also it's like going back to the very beginnings, and that's really good.
I love that. And beginners is even much more harder than doing all these fancy things.
Right.
Stay beginner.
Thank you all for joining us and for requesting this, and that's a really good thing.
Whether you're a beginner or whether you're a 50-year meditator, you're still Shiva.